Welcome back to Our Walk in Christ. And today we're talking about the Don't Say Gay bill, which doesn't anywhere say don't say gay. The word gay doesn't even appear in it. Nor is there any specific restriction other than the fact that, hey, no indoctrinating our 6, 7, 8, and 9-year-olds with your queer agenda. Now, of course, we can use the word queer agenda now because that is actually the terminology they're using now. It's hard to keep up as to what you're allowed to say and not allowed to say at any point in time, but that was actually the terminology that was used recently on a Disney call as they talked about how they're going to further propagandize our children. Now, I did a newsletter. It went out yesterday. I think, if you're on the newsletter list, you should have gotten it within the last day or two. And in there, I gave the defense for why we need to stop paying attention to Disney stuff. They're basically just indoctrinating our children, and they're taking our funds to fight this bill, which is not called the Don't Say Gay bill. It is called the Parental Rights and Education bill. So anytime someone's out talking about the Say Gay bill, ask them, what's it really mean? What's the real title of the bill? It says they don't say gay. It just tells you can't say gay in the classroom. Gay, 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 gay. So they've done a really good job of identifying who's who, because if they're just running around sounding gay like some Tourette syndrome sufferer, then they're probably a crazy leftist who has not even read this bill. And so we're going to go ahead and read the bill. It is all of 7 pages. It will not take us too long to read it, but I did want to go ahead and read it so we can understand really what is going on, that it's not all about, oh, you are anti-gay, homophobic, blah, blah, blah. It's actually probably the most sensible bill that has come out in the last, at least 100 years. I'm really hard-pressed to find something that the Founding Fathers didn't put in that, made more sense than this. And this is the final version that was passed, was signed by Governor DeSantis, and will go into effect July 1st, I believe, of this year. Act relating to parental rights and education, amending 1042, which is one of the education informed consent laws, requiring the school district boards to adopt procedures that comport with certain provisions of the law for notifying a student's parents of specified information, requiring such procedures to reinforce the fundamental right of parents to make decisions regarding the upbringing and control of their children in specified manner, prohibiting the procedures from prohibiting a parent from accessing certain records, providing construction, prohibiting a school district from adopting procedures or student support forms that prohibit the school district personnel from notifying a parent about a specified information, or that encourage or have effect of encouraging a student to withhold from a parent such information, prohibiting the school district personnel from discouraging or prohibiting parental notification and involving in critical decisions affecting a student's mental, emotional, or physical well-being, providing construction, prohibition. Okay, we're going to stop right there for a second, because I'm going to explain what the first part of that happened to say. Very first part of it, what this has to do with is there were some school districts around the country, but also a few in Florida, that the students and the teachers conspired together to transition the gender of the student. And as far as all parental communication, they were kept the original gender of the student, but during the school, the student was referred to by their new gender, and the parents were kept out of the loop of the child's decision to transition. And what the law is saying is that the school may not withhold any type of medical information whatsoever from the parents. Now, there is a carved out exception for in the event the parent is absolutely abusive. Now, what does this mean? Does this mean, well, they're a Christian and they don't believe in trans, and so you can't talk about it? No. It's got to be something that is solid, fundamental abuse is the only thing that you can isolate from the parent. And it's not up to the teacher. Okay, but that's really what's going on here, is it's preventing these school boards and covert classroom instruction and a lot of other things from transitioning a child utilizing some form of propaganda and then hiding that information from the parent. There was the case, and I think the student was in California. I forget exactly where. It might have been one of the Florida ones. The student ended up committing suicide because they were devout Catholics. The teacher messed up the kid's head. Then the school district decided that they're going to send the student without parental consent to a psychiatric evaluation. They hold the student away from the parents, and the kid ends up committing suicide. That sounds like a problem caused by the teachers, and that's exactly what the Florida bill is trying to do. Okay, now next part here. Excuse me, next part here. Okay, so it is going to prevent providing construction, prohibiting classroom discussion about sexual orientation or gender identity in certain grade levels or in a specified manner, requiring certain training developed or provided by a school district to adhere to the standards established by the Department of Education, requiring school districts to notify parents of healthcare services and providing parents opportunities to consent or decline such services, provided that specified parental consent does not waive certain parental rights, requiring school districts to provide parents with certain questionnaires or health screening forms and obtain parental permission before administering such questionnaires and forms, requiring school districts to adopt certain procedures for resolving specified parental concerns, requiring resolution within a specified time frame, requiring the Commissioner of Education to appoint a special magistrate for unresolved concerns, providing requirements for the special magistrate, requiring the State Board of Education to approve or reject the special magistrate's recommendation with a specified time frame, requiring school districts to bear the cost of special magistrate, requiring the State Board of Education to adopt the rules. Now, the reason I'm reading all of this, even though we could gloss over some of it, is because I want to make the point that don't say gay is not in the bill. Requiring the State Board of Education to adopt the rules, providing requirements for such rules, authorizing a parent to bring action against a school district to obtain declaratory judgment that a school district procedure or practice violates certain provisions of the law, providing for the additional award of injunctive relief, damages, and reasonable attorney fees and court costs of certain parents, requiring school district to adopt policies, notify parents of certain rights, providing construction, requiring the department to review and update as necessary specified materials by certain date, providing an effective date. Okay, so what's that portion say? Continuation on the previous portion, we did see the part in there about questionnaires. This boils down to, I think they were in New Jersey, the questionnaires that really were more like homosexual indoctrination. Like literally there was a questionnaire that went out. It was a math assignment, if I remember, that part of it was like, make a pepperoni pizza about your sexuality. You like these pizza toppings, these pizza toppings, like literally a pepperoni is oral sex and cheese is hugs. Make your pizza of your favorite topics. And they caught out on it. They're going, well, we just had a misprint in the printer. We printed the wrong assignment. Why was that in there to begin with? These are fifth graders. Okay. We don't need to be talking to fifth graders. I mean, fifth graders, and when I was in fifth grade, they separated the boys and the girls, and we knew, and the teachers were intelligent enough to know what were boys and what were girls. And then they showed us a film based on our gender, which simply said, hey, boys have these parts and they do certain things and a little bit. We weren't discussing oral sex, okay, in fifth grade. We weren't doing it. And so that is really what's going on. So part of it is these provisions of the laws, and part of it is you can't have the questionnaires, you can't have these things which assess the sexuality, you can't have other means, and you can't hide such information from parents. All of this type of stuff relating to sexual gender, sexual identity, basically the things that are the pedophilic propaganda, these are the things that require parental consent to look into, and they are banned in certain grades, which we will see in a moment here. And the link for this document, by the way, if you'd like to follow along or save it for reference or send it to somebody, is in the description of this video. Be it enacted by the legislation to the state of Florida, Section 1, Paragraph C is added to the subsection 8 of 1042 Florida statutes to read powers, duties of the district school board. The district school board, acting as board, shall exercise all powers and perform all duties listed below. Under the topic of student welfare, in accordance with the rights of parental... Okay, let me mention briefly here. The underlined text means this is what is being added to the law. So when they do this, underlined things get added to the existing law, and striked out things get removed from the existing law. So the rest of this document, pages bottom of 3 down through 7, is all additions to this particular law, which is 1002.20 and 1014.04. Adopted procedures for notifying a student's parent if there is a change in the student's services or monitoring related to the student's mental health, emotional, physical health, or well-being, and the school's ability to provide safe and supportive environment for the student. So that simply is, you have to tell the parent if the child decides to transition. The procedures must reinforce the fundamental right of parents to make decisions regarding the upbringing and control of their children by requiring school district personnel to encourage a student to discuss issues related to his or her well-being with his or her parent, or facilitate the discussion of the issue with the parent. The procedures may not prohibit parents from accessing their students' education and health records created, maintained, or used by the school district as required by 1002.22. Okay, so in this case here, you cannot hide these particular ideas and things from the parent. The parent always must be in the loop in all these discussions. Number 2, a school district may not adopt procedures or student support forms that prohibit school district personnel from notifying a parent about his or her mental, emotional, or physical health or well-being, or a change in related services or monitoring, or that encourage or have the effect of encouraging the student withholds information from a parent. So you can't say, don't tell your mom and dad we talked about this, School district personnel may not discourage or prohibit parental notification of involvement in critical decisions affecting students' mental, emotional, physical health, well-being. This subparagraph does not prohibit a school district from adopting procedures to prevent school personnel to withhold such information from a parent if a reasonably prudent person would believe that disclosure will result in abuse, abandonment, neglect, or terms such as those defined in 39.01. So basically, this is the exception carved out. If a reasonable person would believe that disclosure would cause abuse, abandonment, or neglect. Now, does this mean your parents are Christians, therefore you have to withhold the information? No, that is not something a reasonable person would do, because a reasonable Christian parent would, seek help for their kids. Just a thought. And probably and preferably get them as far away from the school district as possible, because the school is probably the one who pushed them there, unless you have Disney Plus in your house and you're streaming propaganda filth into your house for your children to see. So cancel that crap. All right. So moving on, number 3. Classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on sexual orientation, gender. Again, this is the important one. This is the don't say gay part. Okay, part 3. Classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on sexual orientation or gender identity may not occur in kindergarten through 3rd grade in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students in accordance with state standards. Okay, what does this mean? No going into preschoolers who barely know what their wieners are for and trying to teach them about oral sex or any other thing, or that they're gay or whatever else, because they're not quite capable of such things. It's inappropriate. It is not age appropriate. So the teacher can't, nor can the teacher bring in a person, nor can the teacher show a film discussing the idea of homosexuality, of transsexuality, or even heterosexuality. Yes, is included in this, because the children are there to learn mathematics. They're there to learn reading. They're not there to learn about what to do with their private parts. Okay, and that is exactly what this law says. That part 3 is the whole don't say gay part. K through 3, you're not allowed to discuss sexual orientation or gender identity, because 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, and 8-year-olds are not competent enough or mature enough to discuss such things. And if the parent feels as though they need to do such things because of exposure or whatever else, that is the parent's job, not the activist teacher's job to do. Okay, part 4. Student support services, training developed or provided by the school district to district personnel must adhere to student services guidelines, standards, frameworks established in the Department of Education. So what does this deal with? This deals with the fact that PTAs across the country and other teachers union resources have been teaching, and we covered some of these on this channel, they have been teaching teachers how to circumvent the rules and the laws to push propaganda dealing with the queer agenda on their children while they're supposed to be teaching, English and social studies. So that portion says, hey, you guys may not even talk about how to propagandize these children otherwise. Section 5, at the beginning of the school year, each school district shall notify parents of each healthcare service offered by the student's school and the option to withhold consent or decline any specific services. Parental consent to a healthcare service does not waive parents' right to access his or her student's education or health records, to be notified about a change of his or her services and monitoring as provided by this paragraph. Translation. Okay, at the beginning of the school year, if the school offers a condom program, the parent has the right to opt out of such program because maybe, I don't know, they're teaching like abstinence. I don't know. We can debate that one. Isn't it weird when we have to debate? Now our slope has slid so far. We have to debate, is condoms in schools too far? I mean, yeah, that used to be like, whoa, that's just too far. Now it's like, hey, at least they're just handing out condoms for vaginal sex. Whoa. All right. Section 6, before administering a student well-being questionnaire or health screening form to a student in kindergarten through third grade, school district must provide the questionnaire of health screening to the parent and obtain permission from the parent. 7, each school district shall adopt procedures for a parent to notify principal if his or her designee regarding concerns under this paragraph at his or her student's school, and process for resolving these concerns within 7 calendar days after notification by the parent. At a minimum, procedures must require that within 30 days after notification by the parent that the concern remains unsolved, the school district must either resolve the concern or provide a statement of the reasons for not resolving the concern. B, if a concern is not resolved by the school district, a parent may 1. Request the Commissioner of Education to appoint a special magistrate who is a member of the Florida Bar in good standing, who has 5 years' experience in administrative law. Special magistrate shall determine the facts relating to the dispute over the school district procedures or practice considering information providing to the school district, and render a recommended decision for the resolution of the State Board of Education within 30 days after receipt of the request by the parent. The State Board of Education must approve or reject recommended decisions at its next regularly scheduled meeting that is more than 7 calendar days and no more than 30 days after the date of the recommended decision that is transmitted. The cost of the special magistrate shall be borne to the school district. The State Board of Education shall adopt rules, including forms necessary to implement this paragraph. This is Section 2 if the school fails to act within 30 days. Bring an action against the school district to obtain declaratory judgment that the school district procedure or practice violates this paragraph and seek injunctive relief. A court may award damages and shall award reasonable attorney fees, court costs to the parent who receives declaratory or injunctive relief. C, each school district shall adopt policies to notify parents of procedures required under this subparagraph, so everybody must be conformed to the law. Nothing contained in this paragraph shall be construed to abridge or alter rights of actions and remedies in equity already existing under common law or general law. And by June 30, 2023, the Department of Education shall review, update as necessary school counseling framework, standards, educator practices, and professional conduct principles, and any other student service personnel guidelines, standards, or frameworks in accordance with the requirements of the Act. So that last Section 2 there, what that's dealing with is, hey, if you have guidance counselors that are pushing transgender nonsense, yeah, that's stopping. That's stopping by the next school year. Okay, and then Section 3, of course, this will take effect July 1st, 2022. That is the scope of the law. That is the entire law. The entire Don't Say Gay bill says nothing about Don't Say Gay. It just simply says you cannot propagandize K through 3 grade students with your transgender ideas, gender identity, sexual orientation, which is homosexuality, heterosexuality, or anything other than English and social studies and math and the basic things you're supposed to be teaching to the kids. That's exactly what the law says. That is it. And everything else is, hey, you cannot hold with information from the kids' parents. Now, what reasonable person would say it's a bad thing to withhold such information? There are no reasonable people, but I have pulled out 4 discussions from 4 unreasonable people, and these people are wanting to propagandize your children. Okay, so the school does not say anything about not saying gay. It stops sex education in the younger years. It prevents teachers from keeping sexual behavior and other health decisions from parents. And by the way, most states are now looking to pass these laws. Apparently, it's such a highly bad, controversial law. Most states are looking to pass one of these now because they're going, maybe we should actually be informing the parents what's going on. Don't forget, guys, the Democrats lost Virginia because they wanted to withhold education information from the parents. Let's talk about some of these reasonable, unreasonable people. And by the way, these guys are getting so mad when we're calling them groomers. So I'm going to declare that I have found 4 groomers here who would like to groom your children into deviant behavior. Let's go ahead and have a look at what each one of these 4 people says, and then we will provide a little bit of discussion. Here's our first guy.
I ended up telling my students that I was gay. And how it came up was one of the students was like, my mom thinks that you're gay because of your voice. And I'm like, maybe, maybe not. So they were asking me if I was, because I kind of alluded that I was. So I kind of let them wonder and ponder on it. And I have like the LGBT promotional, this is a safe community kind of stuff, the rainbow stuff all up in my room. And I told them, I'm like, if you look around the room, that should give you an answer to your question. So I did officially tell them. They, of course, went berserk. So instead of teaching social studies today, they just asked me a whole bunch of questions about being gay. So I think it was pretty well.
That guy that we just saw, the 5th grade social studies teachers, his classroom is full of materials that would make his kids ask about his sexuality. Okay, this is exactly what groomers do. Okay, they sit here and they put kids into circumstances by which the kid will ask them the question and think and basically get them to ask the question. This is exactly why pedophiles sit down and say, well, it was the kid's decision. It was his idea. No, it was the kid's idea because you put the idea into his mind by putting him in circumstances. So his social studies classroom, instead of having, like maps or whatever else related to social studies, instead has the queer agenda, gay flags, LGBT stuff, all the types of things that the kids would ask him about his particular sexuality. Okay? Then, when he finally does come out and say, I'm gay, now instead of talking about the subject matter by which he was hired to teach your children about social studies, he was not hired to teach your children about being gay. He instead gets rid of the curriculum for the day to talk social studies and talks about being gay with his children instead. He needs to be fired and investigated. He's a groomer. That's the problem. All right. So the next guy, this guy is actually at a PTA meeting.
Ready when they've been exposed to information, they're ready to learn about it, whether you think they are or not. And the research says that there is no age too young to talk about pretty much anything. If they know about it, they're ready to learn about it, right? So there is no, what we think is always age appropriate. It is if they don't know about it. If they haven't been exposed to it, then yeah, you can give them time to develop. But once they're exposed to it, and social media is going to do it, right? I know some kindergartners in this school with cell phones. Mine had a cell phone. And so they get access to information. They can learn quickly. The world is teaching them faster than probably you are. And so the extent to which we can have conversations with parents around how do we want to approach talking about LGBTQ plus, because there's students as early as kindergarten who are identifying as non-gender conforming, non-binary, that are transgender. And so because they're in our school, they're in our classrooms, then that becomes a responsibility on the adults to say, okay, I have a student who identifies this way. And so it's my responsibility to make sure the classroom is inviting to them, just like it is to someone who might be Asian, Laotian, Korean, African, whatever the identity is.
All right, so this guy's idea is, hey, the kids are already exposed to this material, so we need to talk about it. Well, I mean, they're exposed to the material because you've accidentally left it all up inside of your classroom. Okay, so he makes the argument, once kids are exposed, they need to talk about it. Okay, I'll agree. Let's grant that premise. Kids need to talk about it once they're exposed to it. Are you the person, the social studies person, the math teacher? Are you the person to talk about it? Maybe that's an argument or discussion better had for the parents. If you really think that the parent needs to talk about it, maybe you should, talk to them about it like the new Florida bill tells you to. All right. But here what they're doing is this guy is first, he's going out of the way to expose them to it. These guys are going out of the way to expose these lifestyles to these kids. Number 2, why do you think Why do you think that you are the one who needs to talk about it? It should be the parents' job until they are older. Until there's some genuine idea that, hey, these kids are right on the verge of puberty, good time to talk to them about it. Number 3, he is right that we often think our kids are more innocent than they are. Okay, we do not need to talk about these things at every single turn. What do I mean by that? Well, we as people, as particularly as young kids know a whole lot more about sex than they let on. But the fact of the matter is they have these weird other ideas that generally are harmless and don't go along as long as you're not encouraging them to explore such ideas. It's better to let them sit in ignorance. I myself, I was way less pure than the average kid my age. We were all in pretty bad shape out there, but nevertheless, it never crossed weird boundaries because we were never encouraged to explore such things. It still is the relegation of the parent's job. Number 4, the kindergarten kids do not know what non-binary, trans, etc. is without these teachers talking about it. These are made-up ideas that are designed to get the kids thinking about sex. This is why this guy is a groomer. Okay, he is a groomer because he is wanting to talk to your preschool kids and saying there's many preschool kids who are trans. No, there's not. They don't even know what trans means. Okay, the only trans they know is Transformers. He's going to say, am I the Autobots or Decepticons? If you start talking about being trans, okay? I mean, really. All right, our next one, just warn you, this is the first time I've seen this. This is a drag king and a preschool teacher. That's exciting.
So because I've been getting this question a lot lately, I am going to use this space to answer it. And that is, as a preschool teacher, a drag king, and as a member of the LGBTQ community, how do I feel about the new legislations for like the Don't Say Gay bill or the reporting of transgender kids? And while I don't see things like that too much in preschool, my opinion on it is that I don't care what the government tells me to do. I am going to do what I think is best for the health and safety, and that includes mental health and safety and emotional health and safety of my kids. I will never let any child come through my classroom feeling unloved or ashamed for who they are.
All right, so a mentally ill person is going to do what they want with your kids. This teacher wants to ignore the law. She should be immediately removed from the classroom and her teaching certifications withdrawn. She needs to be court mandated to never teach again. She shows here she is not willing to follow the law, and she is going to talk to 5-year-olds about matters of sex. Additionally, her extracurricular activities as, a drag king should probably merit an investigation into her teaching practices. I have a sneaky suspicion that she probably is not a super good teacher if she spends her evenings dressed as a man going around dance clubs or whatever else a drag king might do. I don't know, maybe reading to little children at the library. I don't know. But problematic. This next one, I just cannot get over this guy's garb. He kind of looks like some crazy medieval priest of some form or another. But this guy here is apparently into gymnastics or whatever else. Let's hear what he has to say.
The Don't Say Gay bill is actually also the Don't Say Straight bill. Here's a section if you wanted to pause and screenshot. Because of Florida's choice to keep things vague, so there's a big umbrella of which to discriminate, they also included straight people. So these are the straight things that you won't be able to talk about in Florida schools when this is enacted. Gender signs need to be taken off all of the bathroom doors. You cannot line up kids in girl rows and boy rows. You cannot talk about traditional.
So I'm going to pause this right here. Now, I'm not sure if he is the one that created these captions or if TikTok did, but he talked about you can't line the kids up in boy rows and girl rows. If he did the captioning, his teaching qualifications should automatically be questioned because of ROSE. Again, I don't know if this is put in by TikTok or some other program or maybe the @libs of TikTok where this came from. But whoever put rows, ROSE, instead of rows, ROWS, that raises some concerns I have. But anyway, let's hear him continue on.
families or a family with a man and a woman, because that's heterosexuality. And I don't want y'all to talk about that in school. You won't be able to celebrate Mother's Day or Father's Day in school. You won't be able to celebrate Christmas in school. I don't know what orientation the Immaculate Conception was, but I don't want my child subjected to that. What other examples of heterosexuality prevalent in K through third grade can y'all come up with? Let me know in the comments.
This guy is teaching one of your children, by the way. So evaluate that. So again, is he really talking about what you can and can't do? Well, does it say you can't talk about heterosexuality? Actually, it does. Wow. Does he make a good point? No, he doesn't. Because here's the point. The children are in school. They're in K through 3. They should be learning about mathematics and English and maybe writing and spelling. They should not be learning about sexual orientation, whether that's gay or straight or trans or whatever else. You should be leaving all forms of sexuality out of it. Does this mean that we need to not learn them up in rows of boys and girls? No, because that's not teaching that. That's like, isolation by gender science, I guess. We'll use that word. Gender science. How's that? Because it's very easy to do. So this particular guy is creating a giant scarecrow argument to beat down instead of looking at the law as it is. The law is not vague. It is very inclusive as to what it does. It does not do anything about holidays, bathroom signs. Okay, and of course I wrote in my notes here about his captions. I'm not sure who put those captions in there. If it was this guy, then he's in the classroom teaching. That's frightening. So how does all this tie into the scriptures? This is a Christian channel. Schools should not be teaching about matters of sex. They should be teaching about academic matters. But the fact that they want to inject sexual orientation into it, even at K through 3, and this is all these people are mad about. Oh, they're just such a bad law. Really? It's a bad law because we don't want our K through 3 grade students learning about sex when you should be teaching them how to add? That is not unreasonable, okay? But the fact that the schools and the teachers across this whole country are trying to do this, you need to get your kids out of public schools. Put them in a place where, they do inform you about what's going on and they don't have crazy, radical, raving lunatics who spend their evenings dressed as the slutty version of the opposite gender in bars and nightclubs teaching your children. Okay, I'm sorry, I just don't want that around my kids. If you call me homophobic or transphobic or whatever else for not wanting to have people of poor repute around my children, call me bad. Anyway, the Bible is silent on matters about when to start sex ed, but it does place accountability of education on the father specifically. If you're a single parent, you got to deal with that too, mother. But you fathers, primarily, you need to be in charge. Deuteronomy 6:4-9. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your might. These words which I'm commanding you to do shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your sons when you shall talk of them when you sit on the house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be frontals on your forehead. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. So that the fathers need to be the ones ultimately in charge. Now, if you dig into what are the various scriptures, there is no discussion of sex ed, as I said here, but there are a few areas that the Bible is clear about. I identified 4 of them for this principle. In all 4 of them, the Bible is very clear about references to sexual deviancy. We should not be practicing such things. So what are sexual deviant behavior? Well, the Bible teaches first and foremost that sex is not a dirty or prudish thing. In fact, it is to be honored among the married. If you are married, you enjoy it. Is, in one verse that I didn't pull out here, enjoy the wife of your youth. But in Hebrews 13:4, the marriage is to be held in honor among all. The marriage bed is undefiled. For fornicators and adulterers, God will judge. So any sexual deviation outside of whom you are married to is what it's in line there. We'll get into what marriage is in a moment, but we do need to, for completion purposes, homosexuality is specifically considered a sin, as is fornication and a few other things. 1 Corinthians 6:9, do you not know that the unrighteous will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived, neither fornicators, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor homosexuals. And there's more things in that list, but just highlighting the particular one here because it relates to sexual deviancy. All right. We're also going to find that, according to Jesus, how dare we argue with him? According to Jesus, transgenderism does not exist. Matthew 19:4. Have you not read that he who created them from the beginning made them male and female, and he did not make them confused? And of course, getting on to the marriage verse. Marriage is between a man and a woman. Matthew 19:5. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined with his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So you have the idea of marriage between a man and a wife. So the call for age-appropriate education is reasonable, and the reason people are up in arms about this bill is that it is counter to their agendas. They want to sexualize your children from the earliest ages. We have highlighted over the last month or two on this channel some of the things that they are doing. We are highlighting some of these. Okay, and in this being said, they are so counter to this bill and so demonizing this bill and anybody that supports this bill because it prevents them from sexually indoctrinating your children and then keeping the parents from that. We need to take a stand, and in whatever state you are in, these bills and laws might be discussed right now. Let your legislatures know that you want a Don't Say Gay bill. In other words, a parental rights and education bill passed in your state, because it is a good bill and it is a reasonable bill, and it does not say you can't talk about gay. It simply says K through third grade is not the place for sexual discussions, and it says you cannot hide information about your child's well-being from the parent. Two very reasonable components of the bill. So with that being said, guys, thanks for watching. You can have a look over at the website at ourwalkinchrist.com if you'd like to follow along with what we are doing over here. And you can come over here, sign up on the newsletter. I do have the daily walks, which are pushed out in several different podcast locations. So if you listen to any podcasts, you can probably do a search for Our Walk in Christ and find our podcast there. So with that, we also have some books over here as well. So you can come over here and buy a book if you'd like to help support the channel with that. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and hope that you enjoy your daily walk in our Lord.